Hey, everyone.
Hey there.
Ever feel like you need a parenting manual
Absolutely.
just to get through dinner time?
For sure.
Today, we're diving into Chapter 9 of Parenting from the Heart by Jack Pransky.
Okay.
And trust me,
All right.
this one is packed with aha moments
I love it.
about setting limits and discipline.
That's a good one.
Right.
Yes.
Because it's not about, like, yelling louder or finding the perfect punishment.
It's not about that.
This chapter really digs into the why behind the behavior.
Behind it all.
Both ours as parents and our kids.
Yeah.
And I've got to say,
What's that?
just skimming through this, Pransky had me hooked with this idea
Okay.
that our current mood,
Right.
like our actual mood in the moment, matters.
It does.
Way more than we think.
Way more.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, who knew that, like,
Yes.
how I'm feeling right now is going to impact
so
my
it's
kids
totally
as much as anything else I think.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
And he calls it the environment we create. And it's like this invisible force field around our kids.
That's a really
So,
interesting way
If we're stressed,
to think about it.
if we're stressed and reactive, they're going to pick up on that energy. And it can actually make things escalate.
Like they're a sponge.
Yeah, Zach.
Right.
Totally.
They just absorb all of that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Just picture this.
All right. I'm picturing it.
It's been one of those days.
Okay.
You're running late.
Oh, I know those days well.
Right.
Yeah.
And your kid decides
Oh, no.
now
this is it.
is the perfect time to try on every outfit they
Get
own.
Every single outfit.
Every single one.
Why do they do that?
It's
And
like
you're already on edge
5 hours late.
to whatever it is you're supposed to be.
Exactly. And their dawdling becomes this
It's the worst.
huge trigger.
Right.
Right.
It's like, why are you doing this?
But Pransky would say,
Okay.
what if you took a timeout
Interesting.
before reacting?
Okay.
Not a punishment for them,
Okay.
but a moment for you
Okay.
to regain your cool.
So he's really saying, like, regulate our own emotions first.
Yes.
Right. Which, let's be honest, is easier
It's a hard part.
said than done sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Right.
Like, in theory.
Yes.
That sounds great.
In those moments.
Like, I should be able to just be cool.
Right.
But sometimes it's really hard.
It's so hard to do.
It is.
Yeah.
But the point is, we're not just managing their behavior.
It's not just about them.
We're managing our own energy.
Oh, interesting.
Which then influences theirs. So really what he's saying is that we need to almost...
It's like this dance.
Okay.
Not a dictatorship.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
I like that analogy.
It's about finding that flow.
Yeah, okay.
And working together.
Working together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that shift in perspective, that's pure Pransky. He's big on challenging those knee-jerk reactions we have as parents.
And we all have them.
Oh, we do.
We all have them.
We all have them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he tells this story about how his upbringing made him super uptight.
Really?
About money.
About money.
And his wife.
And his wife.
Totally different story.
Completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like we inherit
it's true.
these scripts about discipline without even realizing.
Without even realizing it.
And we play them out.
We do.
With our kids.
We play them out.
Even if they're totally off base.
Totally off base.
So it's
so
like...
instead of labeling a child as defiant...
Right.
Because they won't put on their shoes.
Right, which happens.
Every single day at my house.
Every day.
It's like, what?
What if we hit pause and ask what's making them...
Good question.
Dig in their heels right now.
Right, instead of just getting frustrated. Right.
Feeling unheard.
Because it's always something.
It's always something.
Right, it's like that classic saying, all behavior is communication.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, that's so good. And Pransky is all about deciphering that communication.
With understanding that kids aren't bad.
Kids aren't bad.
Bad.
They're just trying.
They're just trying to
get their needs met.
Communicate something.
Yes.
Right.
Get something met.
It's like, we've got to put on our detective hats.
I like it.
Figure out what's really going on.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so it's about...
Okay, less about punishment.
And more about...
Figuring out the root cause.
The root cause.
Of the behavior.
Okay.
And addressing that.
Okay.
And what's fascinating is Pransky believes this approach actually helps kids
Oh, that's interesting.
develop their own internal compass for making good choices.
So it's like
we're not just trying to control them from the outside.
Right.
We're helping them develop that
inner voice.
Inner guidance system.
Right. It's not
about blind obedience.
Blind obedience, right? It's about helping them understand
wanting to understand
the why.
Behind the rules.
Right.
And finding their own motivation to do what's
that internal motivation.
Their own reason.
Which I think is a really important distinction.
It is.
Because so often
it
is about
because I said so.
Because I said so.
Right.
Or do that.
Or you're going to get in trouble.
Right. Which is I get it.
We've all been there.
I've said those things.
I've all done it.
But it's that
internal peace.
That's
getting at something really important there.
It reminds me of this one time my son Alex was adamant about not wanting to go to bed.
Oh, the bedtime struggle.
Right.
The classic.
It's like the worst.
Oh, it's the worst.
And instead of just saying, because I said so.
Because I said so.
Which is so tempting.
Yeah. Oh, it's so tempting.
Right. Right. Sometimes you just got to.
Especially when you're exhausted.
Get him to bed.
Right. You've got things to do.
It's like I tried something different.
Okay, what's that?
We sat down together.
You sat down.
And I asked him to help me come up with a list of reasons why sleep is important.
Oh, interesting.
And it was amazing.
It happened.
He said, so I can have energy to play with Leo tomorrow.
Oh.
Right?
That's so sweet.
It was.
That's awesome.
And by involving him in the process and focusing on the why, it clicked for him.
Right.
It wasn't
you imposing a rule.
It was us.
Working together. To figure out what was best.
Right. To figure out
exactly
what matters.
Exactly.
And it was just so much.
And that's brilliant.
It was so much easier.
Yeah, it perfectly illustrates Pransky's point.
Yes.
By involving our kids in these conversations, we're teaching them to think critically.
Yes.
And make connections.
Make those connections.
Between their actions and the outcomes.
And it's like we're handing them the tools.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like we're giving them responsible humans.
Not just
rather than just
rule followers.
Rule followers.
Right.
Exactly.
I want a kid who can.
You want a kid who can
make good decisions.
Right.
Not a kid who.
And not a kid who's just
follows the rules because of getting in trouble.
Exactly.
Right.
And speaking of tools.
Okay.
Pransky is a huge advocate.
He is.
For the power of really, truly
listening to our kids. And I don't mean just waiting for our turn to talk.
No.
Right. He's talking about.
It's not about
that deep, attentive listening.
Right.
Where we're really
trying to see the world.
Trying to get.
Through their eyes.
Into their.
Especially when they've messed up.
Their world.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about seeking to understand.
Understanding their perspective. Not just waiting for them
to.
Admit that they were wrong.
Right.
Because that's not helpful.
No, it's not. Right. It's about creating a space where they feel safe enough to be honest about what's going on for them.
Right. And then
sometimes
what they reveal can be surprising. Pransky shares this funny anecdote about a kid stuck in traffic who suggests letting air out of all the tires.
Wait a second.
So the cars will go faster?
To make the cars go faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's hilarious.
But his point is kids have this unfiltered wisdom.
Oh, I like that.
This amazing capacity.
Yes, they do.
For creative problem solving that we can often miss.
Totally.
If we're not paying closely.
Really present.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And really
It's like we have to quiet our own adult mind and really tune in to their wavelength. Right.
Because it's so different.
It is so different.
Right.
It is
different.
They're seeing the world in a whole new way.
They're looking at things. And if we can tap into that, it's amazing.
And that takes practice.
It does, right. It takes practice.
To kind of
But the payoff is huge.
Yeah.
Because when kids feel truly heard and understood, even when they've messed up, it builds trust.
It builds trust.
And strengthens that parent-child bond.
Which is ultimately
it's everything
what we all want.
It is.
Right. Right.
Like that's the foundation.
That's the goal of all of this. Yeah. Is to have that strong connection with our kids. It's like we unlock this whole new level of communication when we approach it from a place of curiosity rather than judgment.
Totally. But let's be real, we're not Zen masters, right?
Right.
What about those moments when our kids are pushing every button and we feel that Mr. Hyde rage starting to bubble up?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Pransky doesn't just leave us hanging with be more mindful, does he?
Okay, good, because I need some practical tips here.
He dives into this whole idea of our moods as parents and how much they influence everything.
Okay.
He even compares us to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, saying we're totally different people in those low reactive moods versus those high energy responsive ones.
Oh, tell me about it. Some days I'm like, let's bake cookies and have a dance party.
Yes.
And other days, a dropped sock sends me over the edge.
And that's normal.
That's true.
But Pransky's point is it's never helpful to discipline from that reactive Hyde state.
Okay.
Our kids sense our insecurity, and it actually breeds more insecurity in them.
Wow, it's like a vicious cycle.
It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Not effective.
Not at all.
Okay, so we shouldn't yell no cookies for a year while simultaneously sobbing over spilled milk. Got it. But seriously, what's the alternative when we're about to lose it?
Well, Pransky is big on giving ourselves permission to hit the pause button.
Pause button. Okay.
Not ignore the problem, but take a beat before reacting.
Okay.
A few deep breaths, a quick walk around the block, whatever helps us shift gears internally.
So it's like that airplane oxygen mask thing.
Yes.
Take care of yourself first, then help the small humans.
Exactly. And this isn't about pretending we're not upset or suppressing our feelings.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing when we need a timeout to respond effectively, not just react impulsively.
Right, because we're the grown-ups here, supposedly.
Right, we're supposed to be modeling those healthy coping skills.
Okay, so we take a breath, we calm down, but then what?
Then we can approach the situation with a clearer head.
Right.
And that's when we can really start to understand what's going on for our child and respond in a way that's actually helpful.
So it's not just about avoiding conflict, it's about helping our kids tap into their own wisdom, right?
Absolutely. He believes that when kids are constantly walking on eggshells, their own judgment gets clouded.
Makes sense.
But when they feel safe and secure, they're more likely to listen to that inner voice, make choices that are actually in their best interest.
So it's like we're giving them the space to grow into their own good decision-making skills rather than just constantly dictating what those decisions should be.
Precisely. Which brings us to another key point. Pransky challenges this whole idea that kids are inherently bad when they misbehave.
Okay, Alana, is he saying there's no such thing as bad behavior because my son's artistic Sharpie mural on the living room wall might beg to differ?
He's not saying it's okay to redecorate with permanent markers, but he argues that what we perceive as bad is often a child's way of communicating an unmet need, a feeling of being overwhelmed, or, yes, even just testing boundaries.
Okay, so that Sharpie incident, maybe he was craving some creative expression, or maybe he just really hates beige walls.
Exactly. And Pransky encourages us to approach those moments with empathy. Instead of bad kid, we ask, what's going on underneath this behavior?
Are you feeling creatively stifled, my little Michelangelo? Here, have some finger paints and an old cardboard box.
I get it. It doesn't mean we excuse the behavior, but we address it differently.
Right.
Instead of punishment, we problem solve together.
Which, let's be honest, is way harder than just defaulting to go to your room. But in the long run, probably builds a stronger connection with our kids.
Exactly. And Pransky has this great example of this in action with his own daughter, Jamie.
Okay.
She was questioning. His authority wouldn't do what he asked. His first instinct was to lay down the law, but instead...
Oh, this is good. What'd he do?
He took a breath and really listened.
Okay.
Turns out Jamie wasn't trying to be defiant. She just wanted reassurance that his love wasn't conditional on her always being good.
Wow. That hits home. Sometimes we forget, even when they're acting up, what kids often crave most is that unconditional love and acceptance.
Absolutely. And Pransky realized that by simply acknowledging James' feelings, I hear you wanting to feel loved and I want you to know I love you no matter what, he could actually diffuse the situation and create space for real communication.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's like we can still hold boundaries, but it's that underlying foundation of love and respect that makes all the difference.
Exactly. It builds trust, and when kids feel trusted, they're more likely to rise to the occasion, make choices that align with those values we're trying to instill.
So it's not about controlling their behavior. It's about creating a safe space for them to learn and grow and, dare I say, even mess up sometimes.
Precisely. And that brings us to another key point. Pransky believes in the power of natural consequences.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So not, you're grounded for a year, but more like,
More like if a child refuses to wear a coat on a chilly day instead of forcing the issue, maybe we let them experience the natural consequence of feeling cold.
which, let's be real, might involve some whining and I told you so moments from the peanut gallery.
Possibly. But the key is they're learning from experience, not just our words.
And hopefully next time they'll grab the darn coat.
Yeah.
It's like we're trusting their ability to learn and adapt, which ultimately builds their own self-reliance.
Exactly. It's not about shielding them from every discomfort, but letting them navigate age-appropriate challenges in a supportive environment.
So we're there to guide and support, but also to let them fall down. Sometimes brush themselves off and get back up again.
Precisely. And Pransky emphasizes that this approach requires a fundamental trust in our children's innate intelligence and their capacity to learn and grow.
So less helicopter parent and more, you got this kiddo, I believe in you kind of vibe.
Exactly. Because when children feel trusted, they're more likely to rise to the occasion and make choices that align with their values and goals.
It's about empowering them to be independent thinkers, not just obedient robots.
Precisely. And that belief can be incredibly powerful for children. It helps them develop a sense of agency and confidence in their own judgment, which is essential for their long-term well-being and success.
This is all so helpful. But I have to ask, what about when things escalate beyond a dropped sock or a missed coat? What about aggression defiance? Those are really tough behaviors. Does Pransky address those too?
He does, and he acknowledges those situations can be incredibly challenging for parents. But even then, he encourages us to remember the fundamental principles still apply. All behavior is communication.
So even when our kid is having a meltdown of epic proportions, there's still a message in there somewhere.
Often, yes.
Nice.
And usually those intense behaviors are a sign that a child is deeply struggling, feeling incredibly insecure or overwhelmed.
So instead of meeting their intensity with our own, we need to...
Take a deep breath, regulate our own emotions first.
So instead of yelling back, we might say something like, I see you're really upset right now and I need a minute to calm down before we talk about this.
Exactly. It models emotional regulation and gives us a chance to respond thoughtfully, not just react from a place of stress.
It's like we're showing them that even grown-ups have big feelings, but there are healthy ways to deal with them.
And that modeling is so powerful. Kids learn more from what we do than what we say.
So even when it feels impossible, being that calm, grounded presence can make all the difference.
Absolutely. We're not aiming for perfection, just progress. And Pransky reminds us that this approach to discipline, it's not about finding the perfect technique. It's about cultivating a certain quality of presence and connection with our kids.
It's about that ongoing conversation, that journey of growth we're on together as a family.
Yeah.
And that's a really beautiful thought. It's like he's saying this whole parenting thing.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect.
No, not
or having all the answers.
It's not about having it all figured out.
Right.
It's about showing up authentically and being present.
Yeah, just being there.
Being there with them.
Right.
Yeah, and trusting in the process even when it's messy.
Oh, totally. Because it's always going to get messy.
Always.
Right.
Always.
And being willing to learn and adapt.
Yes.
As we go.
Yes.
Because what works one day might not work the next.
Totally. And that's where that trust comes in.
Right. The trust in ourselves.
Trust in ourselves as parents and in our kids because, Pransky reminds us, this isn't just about, managing behavior.
It's so much bigger than that.
It's about raising these, capable, compassionate, whole human beings.
Whole human beings.
Yeah.
I love that.
And maybe, just maybe, becoming a little more whole ourselves along the way.
Right. We might learn a thing or two.
Always learning.
Right? About ourselves in the process.
Absolutely.
So for all you parents out there,
yes.
Next time you are facing a disciplinary dilemma,
oh, yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Breathe.
Tune into your own mood.
Yes.
And really ask yourself,
what's the question?
What's the real conversation we need to be having right now?
Because...
And you might be surprised.
You might be surprised.
The wisdom and resilience you find both in your child and in yourself.
It's amazing what happens when we approach these situations with that kind of curiosity and openness.
It is.
It's like this whole new world opens up.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've done our deep dive for today.
I think so too.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Keep those conversations flowing.
Yes.
And those connections strong.
Thanks for listening. Did you enjoy what you heard? Want to buy this book? Please use the link in the description to support the channel.